To us, communication usually means speech, but as infants we understand our parents without actually knowing what they're saying. So, in a way, it's non-verbal communication. Horses also communicate non-verbally, and as a result are able to help heal people. It's a phenomenon riding therapy specialist Roswitha Zink is studying.
Our research has shown that horses often perceive things which take place on a subconscious level and provide feedback. This alone shows that horses react on a level far removed from our socially standardized level of communication. And on this non-verbal level, they can establish a great deal of contact with humans.
Nothing and no one, it seemed, could get through to her. Doctors had little hope that her situation would ever change. But Monika is fighting her way back into life. It's an incredibly tough fight. But she's being helped by equine therapy, therapy involving the use of horses. Here, Monika is trying to convey something.
It's wonderful. You want to get a bit closer? For a kiss? You'll have to lean right over. That's not easy, is it? Super, well done. Can you spell out what actually happened to you?
Spelling out letter by letter is the only way Monika can now communicate.
It was a riding accident. Was riding your job?
Ich bin, ja, bin, verstehe ich sogar so schon, super. Military. Geritten.
You took part in eventing. That's tough.
21 months have passed since Monika's accident. Mentally, she's totally sound and dreams of completing her law degree one day. But hardly anyone thinks she's capable of it. Someone who can't speak is constantly underestimated. But Flitzy isn't prejudiced. A therapy horse, she reads Monika's feelings and wishes from her body language.
The mere attention from such a large animal can be highly motivating with regard to improving concentration and muscle movement. Like an infant, a patient in a vegetative state has to learn everything anew: breathing, swallowing, sitting and controlling the muscles. When a horse reintroduces this process through exchange on a very sensitive level, a great deal of healing can be achieved.
But how exactly does healing with horses work? And can this be proved scientifically? Roswitha Zink and her team have been focusing on these questions for several years. Roswitha Zink is the head of E.Motion, the Association for Equotherapy in Vienna, Austria. Besides offering therapy with horses, E.Motion also engages in scientific research, for example, into the relationship between humans and horses. Video cameras record how human being and horse perform certain tasks together. First of all, the goal is to identify how communication between the two takes place. Because this type of research is new, the group first had to find criteria for making this type of interaction analyzable at all. What role do line of vision and physical contact play? Who gives the signal? Who takes the lead? Is rhythm used? The researchers evaluate every second of every video sequence according to such criteria. E.Motion's riding hall, stables and paddocks are located in the grounds of the Otto Wagner Clinic, a large hospital in Vienna. 17 therapy horses live here. Theirs is a strenuous job, and to be constantly fit for it, they need balance and movement. And they must be able to live with other horses in a herd situation. The demand for therapy places is huge. 400 patients come here every year. It takes a lot of time and effort to train a therapy horse. Ahioka, a 4-year-old mare, is at the start of her 3-year apprenticeship. Initially, the focus self-awareness, physical control, trust and attentiveness. Pressure and coercion are counterproductive. They are a barrier to success, both in training and in therapeutic work.
We look for a long time until we find a horse that's suitable, one which is highly interested in people. Ahioka is certainly very gifted for a horse of her age, especially the open way she approaches people and the intensity of her interest in them. This huge interest in human beings, in establishing close contact with them, and in the world around is something extremely valuable.
Part 2 of the basic training involves knowledge of materials. Ahioka is now learning what she will later come into contact with. Above all, she has to watch out for patients in a wheelchair because they can't get out of her way. So Ahioka must have good control of her legs. She mustn't leap away in fright because of some unforeseen movement or some loud, unusual noise. Future therapy horses also have to learn to understand people.
In training, it's very important for a horse to begin to comprehend that the person working with it is able to understand its emotions. Horses express tension, for instance, in very different ways. This might involve a horse waggling its lower lip, or puckering the skin around its nose, or contracting its nostrils. You might only notice that the muscles of its jaws are tight. I encourage a horse to show more clearly when it is tense or sad, but also when it feels happy and full of vital energy. Our horses learn through a prime example. First of all, through one person. Over 3 years, they encounter this person in virtually every emotional situation. Because when I train, I'm sometimes tense, or I might be sad, or so happy I could jump for joy. Occasionally, if something's not going the way I want, I'm annoyed and rather intolerant. Through me, the horse learns what form emotions can take in a human being.
Therapy horses can help with a wide range of medical problems. Elisabeth Wimmenauer offers therapeutic riding in eastern Belgium. Lars has been a spastic since birth. He will need therapy all his life. This is often strenuous and sometimes boring. But on the back of a horse, he isn't even aware that he's having a therapy session.
Wenn es voll hoch steht, ist der Pferd.
Someone suffering from spasticity has too little muscular tension in their trunk and too much in their legs. But when I put this person on a horse and have them moved by the horse, the muscular tension in the trunk increases and that in the arms and legs diminishes. Over time, the patient's erectness shows a clear improvement. The arms and legs become more relaxed and sag because the thrust created when the horse swings a leg forward forces the stomach muscles to work hard. And when the horse puts its hoof down, the braking force activates the back muscles.
This stimulates all the muscles and joints and the brain. Elisabeth Wimmenauer sees her patients making progress day by day.
Ja, hast du einen Walker zu Hause oder in der Schule?
At first, Lars says my legs were stiff, then they became more and more relaxed, and now the muscles are really soft. That's because of the horse, Elisabeth tells him. Yes, he says, because my legs were so far apart all the time. But what makes horses so therapeutically suitable? They can carry people, and being carried and cradled is a human need. They're also extremely social creatures and always strive to enable weaker members of the herd to survive. One reason for this is that a mare can only give birth to one foal a year, so the herd does everything possible to bring it through.
Horses would never reject a foal that was born with some deficiency. That's not in their biological makeup. They'd do everything possible to save it. I see this equine attribute of intensively integrating weaker members into the life of the herd as the reason why horses also take a great interest in strengthening, supporting and motivating humans, even though human beings are clearly weaker creatures.
After 3 months of therapy, Monika is at last able to sit on a horse again. She's so proud of the progress she's making. Her communication is also getting much better, even though it is still non-verbal. Every step the horse takes is a balancing act for Monika, one that places demands on all her muscles, strength and concentration. Flitzy, an experienced therapy mare, senses exactly how she can steady Monika if she starts to lose her balance. Monika and her family live in the Vienna woods, a range of hills near the Austrian capital, Vienna. The family estate includes a hotel and a restaurant, and Monika's horses. Even though no one rides them anymore, they are still of vital importance to her. They give her strength and the courage to keep on fighting for everything that once came so naturally: speaking, walking, studying and riding. Monika and her therapist, Roswitha Zink, have known each other since their school days. As girls, they were both horse mad. But their love of horses took them in different directions. Roswitha became a riding therapist, Monika a competitor in equestrian tournaments.
I'd be scared just looking at a fence. Were you that gutsy? I'm not really a brave person, but you are still so courageous even today. You reckon I'm crazy to be scared of fences?
Monika's mum thinks that's a bit rude. She always reckoned that Monika was too plucky in the saddle. But something, she says, can also happen to people even when they're not putting themselves at risk. Roswitha agrees. Monika took a tumble while warming up. She used her mobile phone to call for help before a pulmonary rupture cut off the oxygen supply to her brain. Her mother came across equine therapy in a newspaper article, but at first Monika's family was skeptical.
My son said, "We've got so many horses at home, why do we need to go somewhere else where there are horses?" But when he came back, he said, "Mum, we've just got to take Monika there." The whole scene, her face just shone. That convinced me it was the right place for her. A situation from her old life with a horse and a riding hall, and the feeling that she was, again, really a part of it all.
A workshop with Thomas Stephenson. A specialist in developmental and individual psychology, he's heading the study being carried out by Roswitha Zink's research group. She and colleague Dorothea Gansterer are presenting and analysing examples from their work. Professor Stephenson had had no previous interest in horses. Now he has to admit that through their way of communicating, horses often get through to patients faster and more directly than human forms of therapy.
A horse remains in exactly the same state as an infant, one of totally open, direct, focused communication.
And that's why the motivation factor is so high.
Precisely. It's also why children accept horses so readily, because they sense that all that matters to the horse is the feedback, this feeling of togetherness.
Horses appeal to us on a level which recalls our earliest experiences of relating. As infants, we express ourselves through movement, facial expressions and gestures. The mother reacts and responds to this. A game of action and reaction begins. Through it, the infant learns to perceive, interpret and regulate its own emotions. Subconsciously, we use this form of communication throughout our lives. Often we express our emotions far more clearly through our body language than through speech. Horses recognize our body language and respond to it.
There's this wonderful parallel between horse and patient and mother and infant. Mother and infant react directly to each other solely with the aim of establishing clear and direct communication. By reacting to each other, they really learn about each other, what the other feels. This is done in a simple and direct way, without the use of any strategies. And it is something which a horse can also offer.
That's what animates us so much in working with horses, this emotional element which we experience so intensively with our mothers, with our parents.
Two who understand each other. This subtle, free communication has nothing to do with drill. Human being and horse react with and to each other. They converse in a language both understand.
It is the innermost nature of a horse to try to interact, to be out and about exploring the world. That is why, for many horses with a talent for interacting and relating, being a therapy horse is a wonderful occupation, because there is always something going on, something new to experience. And they are not so much bound to one place.
Louisa had stopped speaking. She wouldn't talk at school, with friends, and certainly not with therapists. It's a disorder known as mutism. Louisa was a prisoner in her own world.
Ja, es gab eine Zeit in meinem
There was a time in my life that was very difficult. I had started to feel that I was different from most other children my age, that I wasn't being shown the respect I felt I deserved.
Wie ich bin. Und ja, dann habe ich halt
So I cut myself off.
abgekapselt und
I grew quieter and quieter, focusing more and more on myself and losing the ability to communicate
irgendwie den
with other
Zugang zu den
people.
anderen Menschen verloren. Und auch zu Hause wurde es immer schwieriger.
Things also became more difficult at home. Then I didn't enjoy my food anymore, so I ate very little and lost a lot of weight. Then, for some time, I was no longer at home, but in a clinic.
Auf der Klinik.
Mutism is a communication disorder, which is often accompanied by social anxiety disorders and depression. In puberty, mutism can lead to anorexia. Louisa was close to starving to death and needed to be fed through a tube. She felt like a shadow in the world, like a ghost. But at some point, Louisa decided to seek a way out of her isolation, and horses proved a great help. They expected nor demanded anything from her, especially words. Initially, therapy horse Flitzy provided valuable information on how this withdrawn girl felt. The therapist saw that Louisa, who didn't speak, could most certainly communicate and wanted to.
Das Sprechen oder Kommunizieren mit den Pferden.
Communicating with horses is like music.
So wie Musik. In der Zeit, wo es schwierig
During
war,
that difficult time, I began playing the violin again, simply because I could express myself on it. I could play irrespective of how I was feeling.
einfach spielen können, egal ob es mir jetzt gut oder schlecht gegangen ist. In der Musik
When I'm playing, all I sense is me. I can express myself any way I wish. And when I'm together with the horses, I again find myself a step closer to speech or communication. Horses give me feedback.
Pferde geben mir dann eine Rückmeldung.
In other words, they reflect a person's emotions and behavior and react to them. Horses can express very precisely what they perceive from a human. Louisa is learning to understand these equine signals.
Siehst du ihre Nasenlöcher?
Can you see her nostrils? Are they puckered or very smooth?
They're wide open, says Louisa.
Da ist sie auch selber ganz offen. Also gerade
Then she's really open too. A horse's breathing is an important feedback signal. It tells you whether the horse likes being with you, whether it is bored, or whether it is in some conflict situation.
total schön. So schnell, du kannst.
Horses have many ways of showing how they perceive a person. They use their ears, neck, tail, legs, facial expression, posture, almost imperceptible muscular contraction, or their breathing. It takes a lot of knowledge and experience to understand these messages. Louisa was excited by this subtle way of communicating even in her very first therapy session. But can therapeutic success, as achieved in Louisa's case, be measured? The therapists at E.Motion have evaluated their video sequences. In diagrams, they have been able to show for the first time how communication and interaction between man and horse works. A specialist in developmental research, Professor Thomas Stephenson is astonished at the number of parallels there are in communication between horse and patient.
With this kind of interaction, which truly involves totally direct communication, something intersubjective, there are a whole range of possibilities that make a horse superior even to a human therapist. I'm referring to a horse not allowing itself to be drawn into a certain kind of, to put it flippantly, neurotic communication, which could again inflict previous patterns on the child. The horse reacts directly to what the child generates in the form of tension or communication weaknesses.
sozusagen Kommunikationsschwächen unter Anführungszeichen jetzt produziert. Und dadurch wird es fürs
And
Kind
the
auch
child
spürbar.
senses what effect it has and also notices the change when it causes the horse to move away or to come closer. In this way, to some extent, a child learns self-efficacy.
Ein Stück Selbstwirksamkeit sozusagen.
Over 9 months, Monika has made great progress. Just how much of this she owes to horses cannot be expressed in numbers or data.
Bussi. Bussi, ein Bussi. Creme, du kriegst ein Bussi. Und du, was machst du? Ja, gut. Oh, feste Kraulen. Feste Kraulen.
It's not important for Monika to know how therapy horse Flitzy is helping her. She just feels it is.
Seit wir mit der Flitzi
Has Monika learnt a lot through practicing with Flitzy? The answer's clear.
in der Zeit? Ja.
And whether she's learnt more through her head or her heart is also clear.
Oder vom Herz? Vom Herz? Super. Und du bist
Yes,
sehr viel
her
stärker
heart.
geworden von den Muskeln.
She's also got a lot more muscle strength, especially in her hands. But what does Monika find harder, using her hands or tensing her stomach muscles and sitting upright? Sitting. Monika's speech has got a lot better, especially her ability to say Flitzy.
Vor allem flitzig. Ja, gut, gut.
Horses like Flitzy offer great chances of recovery for patients like Monika. Their social nature and their way of communicating can help to heal both physical and mental disorders.